What are subtle red flags at a job interview that say working here would suck? I once showed up for an interview and the manager wasn't there that day. No one called me to let me know. The assistant manager was not apologetic for the scheduling issue at all. She was literally just like, "Oh, she's not here today," in a tone that suggested I should somehow already know that. She said they would call me to reschedule sometime the next week. I told her I was currently unavailable MW, but could come in any time THF. She said if I couldn't make time for the interview, I probably wouldn't be a good fit. I said okay, and went on to my other interviews, and ending up working elsewhere. You'd think that would be the end of it. But both the manager and the assistant manager badmouthed me to a few other people in the industry, including one of my friends. Hello. I made time for an interview. You disrespected me by not calling me to let me know it was cancelled. I gave you the times I was available to reschedule. And that was disrespectful somehow? At my last place of work, the person interviewing me had a printed cartoon on their wall of someone who looked like a bomb had blown up in their face. With the caption, "I spoke with boss name about it. I guess we are still doing it." That wasn't subtle at all. But I ignored it. The boss was an absolute tyrant who wouldn't listen to her staff, consider changing her mind about anything, or let people do the work they were best suited to do. She wouldn't show up for weeks at a time. The job itself was decent, but she was the worst boss I've ever had. Jobs where the expectations of the position aren't clear. The person hiring you should be able to give a clear idea of your responsibilities day to day in a practical way. It shows that the company understands what it wants out of the position. I've worked a couple positions that had a really hard time figuring out who was supposed to do what. That led to a lot of confusion, and both of them had this in the interviews. If the company you're working for can't define what success in that position looks like, you won't be able to either. This actually happened to me. Interviewer: "Do you have any questions for us?" Me: "What is a challenge this department has recently faced?" Interviewer: "Job security." I didn't know it at the time, but "you'll be wearing many hats" was a sign that they were going to give me the work of 4 positions and the wage of 1. I didn't last a year there before I left, and now I won't even finish reading job ads that include that line. I was once told sometimes the hourly workers go on strike, and they lock us in to keep the production line running. But management brings us steaks and we have an informal agreement with the unions, so you can cross the picket lines once a week to visit your wife. Everyone looks tired. Also, you don't see anyone in your department before working in it other than the boss. Made this mistake a few times. Was the worst jobs. If you can see the floor before the interview, you can sometimes get a vibe about the place. I once went to interview for a sales position. Aside from the interviewer being 30 minutes late, it did allow me to sit and observe the situation. I realized pretty quickly this was not going to be the place for me. Very quiet except a handful of people on the phones cold calling. Many reps trying to push for contacts on the other end. Just painful to listen to, and when they'd hang up there wasn't really any interaction with coworkers. Just quiet, and then another call. It all seemed very tense. I noped out of there real quick after the 5 minutes the interview took. Dodged a bullet. I had interviewed for a call center job at another place that's a complete 180 from that. Yes, it's a call center job, so it is what it is. But there was laughter on the floor. People talking to floor managers. Just a completely different vibe that was more inviting. I interviewed for an independent contractor position on a piece rate. It's hard to predict how much you're going to earn on a piece rate. So to attract me, the manager showed me some pay stubs from his guys. I noticed that 1. He could easily cherry pick pay stubs to show his best guys' best weeks. All that tells me is that I'm likely to make less than what he's showing me, at least on average. 2. The pay stubs were obviously designed to be confusing. They were a full page and absolutely covered in data. He wanted me to be impressed by a dollar amount, obviously not accounting for costs which the contractor has to carry, or taxes which the contractor has to deduct and pay, but he took them away before anyone could have deciphered what the pay period, piece rate, number of jobs or KMS was. 3. He showed me other people pay stubs. WTF. Another red flag is that they were desperate to hire because they didn't have enough contractors to deliver the work contracts they'd already sold. I had 2 guys from different offices call me after I'd declined the position who apparently still thought I was considering it. When you are signing all the forms they give you and you are taking your time to read over every document so that you can fully understand what you are getting into, and people come in and start telling you that you don't need to read this and that just sign here and so on. When they feel the need to reassure you in the interview that at that company they work hard but also play hard. They don't play hard, it's a sweet shop and they are just trying to convince that it's anything but one. You are required to wear clothing that has the company logo. You must purchase it yourself from the company. When you ask, "What do you like about working here?" and the interviewer talks about the location of the job, it's a great place to live, instead of the actual job. Always ask the interviewer about the last person who worked the position you are interviewing for, how long they worked, and why they left. Their answers can be very telling of the work environment. I brought up a company's awful Glassdoor reviews, and they got so mad they ended the interview. Well, guess I dodged that bullet. We only want the best of the best. Me, how much are you paying? Minimum wage. Employees are either new hires or have been there for 15+ years with no in between. There is no room for improvement. It's better to leave for advancement. I once turned down a job offer because they mentioned that the previous person in the position had quit after a few months, and most of the people I interviewed with seemed stressed out. I came in for a job interview at 7:30 p.m. The entire staff was still in the office. Should have known right then that 9 to 5 was not ever going to happen. One day I worked until 2:30 a.m. to finish up a big project, and my boss said to me I could come in an hour later the next morning. Gee, thanks bro. With my public transport/travel time, that gives me a solid 2 hours of sleep instead of just the 1. If they seem too relieved that someone actually showed up for the interview,